as a recruiter, when I'm working with applicants and candidates, moving them through the hiring process, I try to get a sense like what does this person look for as a career fit? Like what are they trying to look for in their next role? And is it a good match for one of the roles that I'm currently recruiting for or my organization is recruiting for? One thing to know is if you're not familiar with the industry, is to not think of it as just the grow side. Like people typically think cannabis, oh well, you grow plants, and then that's it. Adaptability is important, and just being open to learning new things. For recruiters, that's what we're looking for, is like what skills transfer over from somebody's past experience. Maybe they're not experienced in the industry. What can they bring over?
Thank you for joining me in Season 2 of Hoda's Career Info, your career program where I seek to explore answers and share stories about the great work done by the career development community. How do I accomplish this? One interview at a time. I am Hoda, your host. I look forward to another season of career chats with inspirational guests and insightful feedback from you, the audience. Ready to meet this week's guest? My guest today is Neil Barker, talent acquisition professional with Amazon Web Services. He has experience recruiting for IT, engineering, and other roles. Neil's past experience includes spending a decade abroad living and working in South Korea, in ESL, training and development, and global HR before returning to Canada in 2014 and working on his passion, which is helping job seekers find their career fit. Let's hear his story and hear how he supports job seekers. Thank you, Neil Barker, for joining me today on Hoda's Career Info. We have been talking about having this career conversation for some time, and so much has happened since we first met during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic. So I am glad that now I get to ask you the questions I've been wanting to ask and give you your first challenge that you chose to take on, and which is sharing a personal definition of a key term that today reflects the work that you do.
For me, like a key term, I would say, it's really challenging, but yeah, I would say like I like the idea of like a career fit, like especially as a recruiter, and I do have a background in job development. I did a 1-year contract earlier, but I like that idea of career fit. So as a recruiter, when I'm working with applicants and candidates, moving them through the hiring process, I try to get a sense like what does this person look for as a career fit? Like what are they trying to look for in their next role? And is it a good match for one of the roles that I'm currently recruiting for or my organization is recruiting for? So I like that idea of a career fit, and then sort of help somebody along in their journey in their career. So.
Well, thank you for taking on this challenge. And perhaps we should have asked you the first question first.
Sure.
This second question is a bit of your background, so the audience listening and watching can know where you come from, because you're not a career coach, you're a recruiter. And so I am excited to have you and share your perspective. But before, can you share your story and the message you'd like to share by being here on this show?
Okay, sure. So I'd say like most of my professional career, I started in training and development. This is, I was living outside of Canada at the time in South Korea. So I was working as like a training instructor for an engineering company. So I had a couple years of that with the engineering company, preparing mostly Korean engineers and business development people for overseas assignments outside of South Korea. They were going all over the world. It was mostly like Middle East, North Africa, and Southeast Asia, a lot of the engineering projects. So a lot of it was helping them with like cross-cultural communications, like understanding cultural background of different countries where they were going to be dispatched to, and then helping them with their own communication skills to bring it up to a level where they could be understood by locals or other expats working in those locations. So I did that for a few years, and then I transferred companies to one of the divisions, one of the Samsung company divisions. And similar role, I did that for a year, and then I focused more on internally where this division I was working with, they were hiring expats from outside of South Korea. So they were hiring like Americans, British, people from really all over the world, from like also Middle East, from India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and bringing them into South Korea to work at the headquarters for typically 1 to 3 year contracts, with the understanding that they would be retained as an employee, but also dispatched back to their local region to work as like project managers and work more integrated with the company. So for me, I saw a lot of the challenges bringing the expats into South Korea. The company and the departments I was working for, they weren't really prepared for that. So there was a lot of mismatch and miscommunications. So I saw like, oh, like I want to fix this. I want to help this because I'd hate to lose the talent that they were bringing in. And then, would send a bad message about the organization is not prepared. So I really saw, hey, like I can help with this rather than focus on the domestic staff who are being dispatched out. Let's focus on improving the systems and processes and procedures for expats we're bringing in. And then we can get a lot more level set between the organization. So I did that for a few years, and then I'd already been in Korea for, I was going on my 11th year. So I was like, I want to go back to Canada. I'm getting kind of tired. And then I returned to Canada, and then I did my first real active job was a job developer, a maternity leave contract cover that I did. So it was more like on that employer services side of things. So I did that for a year. It was very interesting because I could use that recruiter and HR aspect, but it was more from the client side, meaning the job seeker. So I could help them from their perspective, which I really sympathize, and I like that perspective because I want to help them get that career fit. Like, let's work you on some skills maybe you need, and I can help you on your job search, your resume, and get a sense of what you're really looking for. And let's look for those opportunities out there. And then I would be in touch with employers on that side and say, hey, I have a good client, let's match. And then we can maybe do a placement. So I did that for a year, and then I moved kind of back into the traditional HR recruiting aspect. So I've done a couple different recruiting jobs in Ontario mostly. And that's where I am today. I'm at a company now doing recruitment, mostly on the operations side. So meaning mostly people who this may be an entry level position for them, or it's a skilled labor position, or they're maybe, just 1 to 5 years into their career. So I do get to see that chance where I see somebody who they're maybe just a year out of high school or college, and then this is their first real professional full-time permanent job. So I do get to use that job developer employment counseling aspect that I done a couple of years ago, and help them like, hey, like we provide this or this opportunity to move in the organization. These are the skills you might need to move forward and move up in the organization. So that's where I am today.
So coming back to Canada, you took on what I view as a challenge, because you got into the cannabis field, which is relatively a new, officially anyway, it's a new field, right? Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on the cannabis industry right now in Canada in particular? But if you would like to offer more, that'd be great as well.
For sure. So as I see it now, there's a lot of like consolidation, I would think, like across a lot of organizations, and this is all in small, medium, and large size. Like I'm in one of the larger organizations in Canada. But what's happening is they grew so fast, and there still is that aspect, like it almost feels like a startup in a sense. It's not really a startup anymore. It's kind of more into mature organization, but there still is that struggle where not all the processes are fixed yet or even set in place. So there is that challenging aspect of it. And there is a lot of volatility in it right now, just because of the economics and the price and everything. And it is still relatively new for being in Canada. It still is relatively new being as a legal product. So, and then there are different regulations that affect the economics of it. It's kind of controlled province by province. There's different rules. So we have to be mindful of that where I work in terms of recruiting or even job postings, where because we do operate in the United States as well. In a few select states, we actually have operations in manufacturing. So there is a lot of difference. Like I know in our job postings, for example, in Denver, Colorado, we have an operation in Denver, Colorado. And in Colorado, it's the state law that you have to post the job salary for the job posting. Like there's no choice. You can't post and not have a job salary. It has to be on the job posting. Whereas like we operate also in California, we don't have to post it there. It's not law. And in Ontario, we don't have to. And for us, like I would prefer to post it, but the way the organization is, they're not doing that right now, as are the competition. They're not doing that right now. So we're kind of following the industry, but hopefully we can get to that point where it would be publicly posted. So.
Well, thank you for sharing some of these challenges, because it is a new industry, as you said, particularly for us here in Canada, and trying to figure out the provinces too with their own regulations is definitely another challenge for you. So for anyone who is interested, I guess, in getting a role in this industry, and part of what you hire for, of course, you said more of the entry-level positions. What are the significant skills that you say, like, these are important, these skills are important, this is what I'm looking for sure. The industry?
So yeah, like those frontline roles where it would be working in the facilities. So like I'm focused a lot on, we would call them a processing assistant. So this is working with the product that's already been grown. So we've already got the dried cannabis, or it's in an oil form, or it's in a chocolate, or a gummy, like a little gummy candy or a drink. So on that sense, like we're looking for somebody who's adaptable, because the way the economics are and the demand on certain products, like we will have to shift manufacturing to where the sales are. Because the sales are not static. Like for example, in beverages, we may see increase in demand. So we'll have to be able to move people from, let's say, our packaging line over to the beverages. Because we'll say, oh, our sales are increasing 10% over here. We're going to anticipate demand in the next few months. So we're going to need more people. So for us, it's much easier to pull people off of certain lines and move them over. So that adaptability is important, and just being open to learning new things, which kind of goes with adaptability, because there will be that need where they'll have to move and learn different skills. Maybe, for a few months working, on a production line where they're doing packaging, stamping, labeling, and getting ready to send things out onto the warehouse, to moving over to beverages where they're packaging up the cannabis infused beverages. And then a few months later, we may see another need in another part of the production facility, and we'll have to move some resources, so some people over there. So that's really important for entry level, those frontline roles, as somebody who's familiar or at least open to a manufacturing type environment and is interested and keen on learning different skill sets, so they'll be able to move across to different lines.
Definitely, this industry also then reflects most of the skills that we're always talking about. And first one is adaptability for sure. And the other one is really about lifelong learning, in that you don't think you got one thing, now you're going to move to something else and learn something new. So these are good skills to hear about for sure. And I do have one final question for you, Neil, and that's So what are some of the ideas going through your mind? What would you like career coaches or job seekers, whoever you choose to talk to right now, to know about this industry or about the progress of this industry?
Sure. So yeah, I think that like one thing to know is if you're not familiar with the industry, is to not think of it as just the grow side. Like people typically think cannabis, oh well, you grow plants and then that's it. But it's really like you would see it as an industry sector, as that CPG, the consumer packaged goods. So like a food product, it really is like well, it is controlled through Health Canada, but it is a consumer packaged good, a CPG. So, and that's how we categorize ourselves, and we continue to talk about as a CPG, like chocolate bar, potato chips, or granola or oatmeal, like that. It really is like that. So if you think of it from that mindset, it opens up so many more possibilities. Because if you think, oh, it's plants and I'm not really good at growing plants, or I'm not interested in that. But if you think of it as like a manufacturing and production environment, because there's so much beyond that, like there's supply chain, inventory control, warehouse, laboratory, QA. There's so much to it. There's computer support that is supporting all of that production. Like some of the other frontline roles that I hire for are like skilled labor, like millwrights, HVAC technicians. Like I've got a lot of those too that I'm hiring for. So there is that whole aspect of it. Is, I would say it's important to think about that beyond just the plant. Although we're always looking for people who are good growing, but that whole support system that comes after the plants are grown. I would say that that's one thing to think about, and look at the career opportunities for that as well.
This is very good advice and information to learn about, because yes, the probably the initial thinking is, okay, it's the growth, and where do they have the growth, and the plant side of it. So thank you so much for sharing this. And these were all the questions I have for you today. Neil, was there anything else you wanted to add? Something that you thought you were thinking, oh, I want to talk about this today, but I didn't ask you about?
No, I don't think so. But I think, like we discussed, like that adaptability for job seekers for this industry or anything, it's just looking at your adaptability and your transferable skills that you can bring. I would always highlight those, because for recruiters, that's what we're looking for, is like what skills transfer over from somebody's past experience. Maybe they're not experienced in the industry. What can they bring over? And I'd say that adaptability, and think about it that way.
Thank you so much for your time, Neil, and I look forward to further collaborations in 2022.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you for joining me and Neil Barker in this episode of Hoda's Career Info 2022. I hope that Neil's message helps you reflect on how to position your transferable skills. You can connect with Neil Barker on LinkedIn. Please remember that you can listen to Hoda's Career Info, since it's also dropped as a podcast. To let me know if you are interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, rightcareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media, Right Career Fit, for more career info. I am your host, Hoda. Until next time, stay inspired and keep moving in productive ways.